Welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings. Hi, I'm Teresa.
Hi, I'm Sheila. Hi, welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings with Teresa and Sheila. Hi, I'm Sheila, the owner of Finest Details, and I am a wedding planner, a wedding florist, and I have a rental decor showroom.
Hi there, I'm Teresa, owner of the English Country Barn, a beautiful wedding venue in Magnolia.
My name is Joey Warren, and I am so glad to be here as a 26-year, can I say veteran?
Yeah,
Is that long enough?
You can say veteran.
A professional wedding DJ with 26 years experience, and I've worked with both of these ladies multiple times. And again, thank you for having me.
And we're delighted that you're here today to spill the tea on all things DJ, Joey.
Well, I love the names, so you want to toast?
Let's have a toast.
Let's spill the tea.
Spill the tea.
Spill the tea.
I'm sure
Cheers.
after 26 years, Joey, you've got lots of tea that you could spill.
You know, I actually, one day, I think I'm going to write a book.
Well, the reason we do the podcast
Heard you say that.
it's quicker to do a podcast than write, actually.
It is.
So yeah,
and
that's why we do
what a
this.
wonderful platform and a wonderful studio. So again, glad to be here.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of people that are following our podcast that either may not have a planner yet, maybe not their venue, that they're in early stages, and they're new brides. They don't really know what to look for. And so we would like to discuss today aspects of being a DJ.
Sure.
That they have a clearer understanding that you're not a plug and play, that all the different things that you need, things they need to be asking about their DJ. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me what is the most important thing for you in your relationship with your couple?
Sure, and it's a great question. I'm glad you asked that because, first of all, I do want to say to the bride, mm-hmm. there's nothing wrong with not knowing what to ask.
Right.
This is your first time.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like, and I always use this analogy, but it would be like purchasing a vehicle but not test driving it. You don't know what you're getting. So, up front and foremost, don't feel like you're lost. Just take your time to the bride and ask all the questions you need to ask. Mm-hmm. So with your question, I think relationship is a key. I think the relationship between the DJ and the bride, the groom, don't want to leave the groom out because that's very important. Mm-hmm. Also with each vendor, because I'm sure that the bride is maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, especially at first, because there is a lot of things that she's going to take care of, and most of the time a bride has a great team around her family, the groom, of course. But when you're picking your vendors, and I can speak for the DJ, it's very important to have a relationship with the bride. As a matter of fact, I tell all my brides with the first phone call that we have, that it's very important for the DJ and the bride and groom for their personalities to fit. The reason I say that is because of a point you made. DJs are not just a plug and play part of your wedding. The music, of course, is what most people think of when they think DJ. They think music, and music is a very big aspect of what we do, but there's also a tremendous amount of work prior to the wedding, and once the wedding day arrives, it's very important for the DJ to work with the vendors that are there. And I'm going to get back to that in a moment because there's something I would like to highlight there. But it's very important for the DJ to work with the vendors there to make sure that day is as flawless as it can be, with no awkward moments, no hiccups, nothing of that nature. So to the bride, when you're talking to your DJ, it is very important to go over those three most frequently asked questions. Are you available on this date? What is your fee? And what do you offer? Those questions are good, but take a little bit of time and talk to your DJ to make sure that they have the experience to be able to know how to conduct or go through with the other vendors the itinerary, make sure everything is covered in detail, and that's going to make their day incredible.
Well, something Sheila and I believe very, very strongly is that vendors all play nicely together, and we're not in our own little world, and we're all a Venn diagram that make it work together. And one of the things that I think couples should be thinking about, and it is a bit of a bandwagon that I'm on, that they should be asking, have you been to that venue before, or have you worked with those other vendors before? Because I mean, I promise you, if every vendor that shows up at a venue is all new to that venue, it's a little tricky, because nobody knows where anything is, nobody knows who to ask. I mean, so for example, if a DJ has been to a venue before, you know where you're plugging in, you know what requirements are for outside spaces, whether there's electricity, whether you need to be a generator, whether you need to bring drop cords, and
lighting on the dance floor.
Lighting, whether there are certain restrictions, like what are those things called, the indoor candle type things, dry sparks.
Cold sparks.
Cold sparks. You see, I mean, I know nothing about DJing, but I mean, our venue, they're banned, so I do know that much. Right. Because, we just don't allow them. But all of those questions should be asked as well. And I think something that's really important from a couple's perspective is that if they find vendors who have 26 years experience, you've been there and seen it and know how to guide the couple into, because they don't know what questions to ask. And I think that sometimes it is a case of, what price are you and are you available? And then they think that's good enough. And then they think they just need to do a list of play requirements.
Sure.
And that communication right the way through is so important, isn't it, really?
It is absolutely vital. And you made some great points there. And earlier I said I was going to circle back to the DJ working with the vendors, because you said a good vendor team is very important. I said a couple things to the bride, but before I get back to that, I want to say something to the DJs that may be listening. It's important to work with your vendor team. You're not the star of the show. The DJ is not the star of the show. The DJ is there to provide a service, speak clearly on the microphone, work well with their vendors, make sure the itinerary is carried out as you would present it to me as the planner. So that's very important. I'm going to say that to the DJs, because you're all there for one common goal, and to make that night successful. It's not about me. It's not about the caterer. It's not about the photographer. It's about a team of vendors that are making this happen for the bride and the groom and their family. So yes, communication is very important, and I again will say, to the DJ, you cannot have enough information. For the bride, you cannot ask enough questions. Please take time to do that. And I mentioned earlier, before we started our podcast today, I'll give you an example. If a bride says, okay, I have someone singing in my wedding, okay, it's easy to say, okay, that's what's going to happen, and kind of leave it at that. Well, no, we need to make sure that we know exactly, as the DJ, what format that music's going to be on. I would suggest getting it prior to. Who's going to need a microphone? How many plugs are we going to need? How many, this and that. And if you take care of all that up front, it makes the day go flawless.
Yeah, so something I would say as a venue, I love it, love when vendors want to come and do a reconnaissance meeting before. If they've never been to the venue before, DJs, it's so important for you to not show up the morning of the wedding and say, so where am I plugging in? It's so stressful. And I mean, we had an example in the Enchanted Woods. Somebody thought that they could do 350 feet of drop cords right the way across my horse pasture, because they had done not even a phone call. No. There had been no research whatsoever, and that makes me kind of cranky. And we're trying to say yes to the bride and groom and making sure that their wedding is flawless, and they don't know any of those disasters that have happened. But if a DJ not just DJs, but every vendor, if they do some research beforehand and don't show up the morning of, where am I going? What am I doing? Just makes everybody's day so much easier. It must drive you crazy when somebody shows up who knows nothing.
And that's one of the things with the couples. Yes, we're trying to educate them on what to ask so they're prepared, but as professionals, not weekend warriors, but professionals, it's our job too to be thinking ahead. And that's what I've always found working with you, is I don't worry if you know the questions that you're asking them.
Right.
It's because, I'm not thinking, oh, is he bringing a mic? Because I've worked with you before.
Sure.
I'm comfortable. I know what you have. I know that you're prepared. But couples don't know this. And we as vendors should take full responsibility in making sure that we're educating our couples. And if you're a vendor, if you're talking to them and they're not asking you questions, like, that's the red flag.
Right.
If they're just answering how much they are and if they're available, then the next thing is, well, how much experience do you have? Have you ever worked with this venue? Ask more questions, because any of us can create a beautiful social media.
Sure.
But I like to say, have I worked with them before, or have you been to a wedding that they've played at before? Because, and not just DJs, all of us as vendors, it's important that you have, if you're trusting and hiring and paying for a service, that you have vendors that are looking out for your best interest.
Well, something that we find quite interesting, and I noticed it again this weekend, was after we've done a tour, we sit down and say, so have you any questions? Mm-hmm. And it's so reassuring when they say, well, you've already answered them all. Right. And so if you've already educated them and given them the information they need, they shouldn't have a long list of questions that are still unanswered, because you would have already, as a DJ, asked them, do you know where you're having your ceremony? It's not just about plug and play and what music do you want?
Very true.
And I just think that vendors with lots of experience are going to already have offered the right information to them.
Right, and both of you ladies made a wonderful point, and I'm going to address both of them. Number one, to the bride, if you are talking to a DJ, if they are asking questions, mm-hmm. You have someone that's got your best interest in mind, because they want to make sure your day is going to be perfect. And then to the point you made, Ms. Sheila, communication is the key. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah,
not only from the DJ, but from the venue, from the planner, from every vendor involved. Communication is the absolute key to success.
Agree,
from
1,000%.
From the first contact to the last dance of the night, mm-hmm. it is very important.
I think something that is very evident with the group of vendors that we all like working closely with is we all are Team Bride, and we all have the couple's interests only at
Team
heart.
Bride, I love that.
We're not egotistical, are we? We all understand that the reason we're there is not for our benefit.
There's one goal.
It's to make sure that they leave on Sunday morning and say best day ever, and that's all we want, isn't it? Really. And anybody that doesn't have that interest at heart probably is not going to work well with us.
Well, unfortunately, and we can move on. If I start talking too much, just let me know.
Not possible with us.
Unfortunately, it goes back to what we learned in school, and this is my opinion, but supply and demand. I think after COVID, the wedding industry, number one, it took a hit, and then it did change. Mm-hmm. I know that I average doing 35 to 50 weddings a year. Mm-hmm. I think that first year that COVID came out, I think that was maybe 2000, I mean, 2020, yeah. 15 weddings. Mm-hmm. And then that's, so I think a lot of folks were shut down in their ability to work and do some things. So I think after we kind of got quote unquote released to go out to normal society, a lot of vendors came out of the woodworks.
Oh,
so for me, anyone with a computer and a speaker was a DJ, and I'm not faulting them for that.
But we say that about planners, don't we? Anybody with a clipboard and a black dress is suddenly a planner.
So many planners, so many decor places. So it was overwhelming.
It was overwhelming, and I don't blame anyone for wanting to work and to making that that goal to get out and do some things. But to the bride, you really have to, like you said, you made a mention of a red flag. You have to be prepared, or have to be aware that there could be some red flags out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a nice way of saying it, isn't it? A little red flag. If there's a red flag coming up, just run away.
Either that or really dig in and vet them very
Do some
good.
research. It's so hard these days, though, isn't it? Because so many of them have got really good social media, or they're very good at portraying themselves. I know.
But you are correct. You're
And
exactly
then,
right.
I mean, Sheila and I are always banging on about, don't just find all of your vendors on Facebook, because it's not the safest way of doing it. And, I do think that research is so important, and it's not just about price. And that's something, I mean, again, you get what you pay for, but I feel if you've got a DJ that's saying, I'll do your whole wedding for $500,
you can't,
it's another red flag, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you hit that point perfect. Technology is a wonderful thing. We've, as a whole, we have accomplished some feats we probably would have never thought we would have without the technology we have today. But with social media, I think it can be harmful for the bride. And I'm going to give you a really quick example. If you go on Facebook and you say, okay, here's my venue, this is my day, I'm looking for, and I'll just use this for example, a caterer, photographer, and a DJ.
Yeah.
Well, if you'll look at that thread, they'll have 200 comments.
356 is the one that I've seen. Yeah,
and
crazy.
even, and you made a point of this, even when they say, well, my budget's for this vendor is $800. Well, I know as a professional DJ what it takes to do a wedding and what it takes to provide that service that bride is going to walk away that Sunday and say that was the best day of my life.
Because you're not showing up on on the wedding day, plugging it in and going for it. There's a whole year worth of work beforehand.
So if that person or that DJ goes up there, or if that photographer or caterer goes up there and says, yeah, okay, your budget's $800, message me. I want to talk with you. Well, just be aware, because price is not everything.
No.
And the last point I'll make before we move on, and I think this is very, very important to the bride. Find the areas in your reception that are most important to you. Okay? And then that's where you may want to allocate a little more money.
Right.
So if you are really loving the fact that, hey, I can't wait to get these beautiful pictures, this beautiful video, then maybe you want to spend a little more and get that videographer or that photographer. Or maybe if dancing is very important to you, or if the food is very important and you're not really big dancers, but you really want a nice meal. So kind of take your budget in a whole and put your money where it's most important to you.
Yep.
We always say that when they very first come and tour the venue, okay, which aspects of your wedding are most important? You know, the guys typically always say food, I would say.
As a planner, that's the first thing. I think give me your top 5 things, because then we know where we need to focus, and then with what we've got left of the budget, we put in the other places. Because for me, flowers are important. For Teresa, that would not be it.
Right.
So every bride, every couple has their different dream day. And so I always say top 5, and that's what we focus on first.
And for all the brides that are listening, don't let it overwhelm you. Your vendors will help you, and your planner will help you. We're just spilling out, for lack of better words, a lot of information.
But also, too, I like to note that there's some couples listening to the podcast that may not get a planner for whatever reason. And so also, too, we want to be able to give them a lot of eyesight on what
that's a great point. And over the years, especially in the first part of my career, I didn't work with as many planners as I work with today. So I actually had to take that role on to some extent. Now, not everything that you do as a planner, but to create what I would call a necessary itinerary, introductions for the reception, where do you go after that, first dance, father, daughter, mother, son, when are we cutting the cake, when are we doing this, when are we going to do toast?
Photographers, too. Before 2020, I still saw that happening a lot. Like if I was there as a florist or decor, the photographers that get there and they'll be like, Sheila, there's no planner. We've had to do everything. Yeah. And so between DJs and planners, those were roles that they had to pick up.
Yes.
Now, I'm thankful that really all of that is really in the past, because there's so much to planning that is not just a day, well, as a planner, not just a day of. It's like prepping all your vendors, having everybody organized, making sure we've got forks for the cake, like all of that brought together. And I'm thankful in the venue industry that they wanted to elevate customer experience at their venue
Right.
and said, we want to
A
require
planner.
a planner.
Require a
And
planner.
so I'm
Absolutely.
thankful for that.
Well, and I agree with you 100%. And I think all vendors play their part, and every vendor is absolutely important. But I will say to the bride, please entertain the fact of having a professional planner. Because I run into a lot of times where the bride may say, well, I've got a friend of mine who is going to...
That's my biggest nightmare.
Now, here's the thing.
She was a bride 6 months ago.
well,
She's got
Yes,
this.
and I've seen some that are they're correct. They're spot on. They do a wonderful job. But no matter how good that person is in directing that day of, they're not a professional planner that understands what needs to be done behind the scenes to make everything work, and also are ready to be able to react if something does happen.
But one of the things from a vendor's perspective is having a professional coordinator or planner is they contact all of us as well.
Sure.
So we all then know what everybody's role is. I mean, we had an example not very many weeks ago where the caterer, it had been missed, thought she was showing up at exactly the same time as the ceremony.
I was there.
And I texted her and I said, oh, this can't happen. Oh, no, well, I was getting ready to reach out to the planner, Sheila, because I realised, and I thought, but this is now Thursday and the wedding's in 2 days' time.
Right.
Yeah.
And it should have, it should have been something that she had had a conversation with the couple beforehand. But by us all being on the same team and seeing the timeline and understanding what's happening, somebody will probably pick it up and think, oh, that's going to be a little bit awkward. And so, and it's a bit like, there's no point in a DJ showing up 5 minutes before a ceremony, or a bartender who hasn't even set up the ice or anything, because it's just, so we all need to be communicating and having a professional who is going to send that timeline out to everybody. It means we have all got opportunities to review it weeks ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And then...
Or 3 months ahead of time.
Well, I don't, but, I'm going to properly review it the week of and just make sure everything's good, because I've got last week's wedding to do. But I do think that it's very important now, because we're not all individuals, we're all cogs in a wheel, aren't we? And we all need to make sure that everybody's happening. And, and it's no good you think, oh, I'm just going to do the first dance now because it feels good,
No, listen, you are making an absolute great point, and I know you've got some additional questions and we'll move on, but I will say this. I think that is what we mean earlier when we both said, or when we all said, plug and play. That's not what we do, because if in fact there is a situation that you don't foresee happening, but it does, the DJ needs to be able to have the experience to move on.
Right.
And that can happen. I could give you countless examples of that, but I'll give you one real quick. This happened to me this past year. It was time to do the toast. The bride and groom are at the head of the sweetheart table. They're ready to do the toast because they want to open the dance floor, right? So we're ready to do the toast. Well, if I, as a DJ, says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, and I go through that and tell them what's going to happen and get everybody to sit down. Well, first up is the best man, John Doe. And there's crickets, because John Doe is not in the room. He may be outside. He may be in the restroom. So the DJ needs to be able to be prepared, but not only prepared, but to know. Let's make sure those
They're here.
key individuals are in the room.
up.
But if it's not, then you also have to be able to. And again, for lack of better words, just ad-lib that and let's make that happen where you're not putting that bride and groom into an awkward situation.
So, Jerry, I have to tell you a true story. A couple of years ago, Ian, it wasn't you, I promise. Ian came up to the venue, as he normally does before the wedding, make sure everything's all situated, everybody's all good. And it's maybe, 10 minutes before the bride's about to walk down the aisle. And the DJ has gone white with panic because his system has failed.
Okay.
And it won't work.
Okay.
So Ian said, he wants your job, I think. He said, what music do you need? And the DJ's I don't know, panic. And that comes from experience, because, you know, if you're a DJ of 26 years, you're not going to panic. You're going to deal with this. And, you know, you've probably seen those experiences before. Right. And Ian isn't a DJ in any way, shape or form, but he's been in business a long time and had difficult situations. He said, tell me the music. Yeah. So the planner found the music on the timeline of what they were having to walk down, and bless Ian's heart, he downloaded that to his phone and played it through the speaker in the pavilion, so that, because it's Bluetooth, and that bride was clueless. Mm-hmm. The DJ took an hour to get his system back up working, so Ian then played music for the whole cocktail hour off his phone.
Right.
And I thought, where the hell's he gone? He's been gone a really long time. What's happened?
He was playing
music. And when he told me, I thought, oh no. Oh no, I hope they didn't mind his music taste, because it was nearly all country music. Right. But that bride never knew. Well, and that's our goal, right? That they don't know.
Exactly. So, you know, I give Ian props on that, because that is the main goal. Let's make sure everything comes out exactly like the bride wants.
Yeah, and those questions should be happening as well. You know, the bride should be asking what
is your backup?
What's your backup plan?
Yeah.
What if you're sick? What if your car breaks down? What backups do we have? And those things are part of communication, aren't they, for reassurance? Because we don't want, you know.
No, you. I promise you're spot on, and you're even asking some questions or mentioning some questions that I see as being trended on social media. Mm-hmm. And one of those questions is, what is your backup plan? What are you going to do? So maybe if you guys have me back one day, I'll dig into that a little bit, because that is something I think is very important. But I think there's some things that the bride needs to know.
Right.
So we'll talk about that. But
well, I want to do some rapid fire questions.
Sure, let's go. I'm ready.
So, because I used a reference plug and play.
Sure.
I don't think a lot of couples realize that the emceeing of your reception is just as important as it is the dance time, and that's one thing I love when we work together. You're right on that timeline. You start the introductions. We can be across the room, thumbs up. That is extremely important. So
it is.
When people are picking a DJ, they should be thinking about the strong voice, how their personality's coming across. Are they lively? Are they catching entertainment? Are they, you know, a little slow talking?
Sure.
Like that personality, because that part to me is way more important than the dance. Now, with that being said, I'm going to back it up.
Okay.
That when I'm talking with couples, what do you see your, after party at the reception? You know, if they want high energy, if they still want to kind of be low key, if they want 80s music or top hits.
Right.
One of the ways that when I'm saying, okay, well, here's two people that I think would be a good fit for you and why, do you want to know one of the first things that I'm bringing in importance?
Tell me.
Read the room.
Read the room.
Because if a DJ can read the room and say, okay, people are not dancing to this song and this is what they've got. Okay, 5 songs up, I got this one. I'm going to bring it up now. We're going to get them dancing. Right. Reading the room for a DJ to me is at the top.
Right.
Because if you're just going by the list that you've made with the couple and people are not moving or they're outside or they're just not engaging, then you'll have people leaving 30 minutes in.
Sure.
30 minutes in, they're heading to their car. So reading the room is extremely important. So MC and reading the room
absolutely
are two of the most important things I see with a DJ.
Okay.
Now,
can I talk on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So, because I was about to bust.
It wasn't a very rapid fire question. I'm just saying.
I was almost like, I gotta say something here.
Yeah.
No, that would be a chapter in my book. If I were to write a book, because you are correct. As far as, let's address that really quick, one at a time. The MC work of the wedding, I do think that's very important. The reason why, I go back to what I said earlier, communication is the key. Now, that communication is not only with the bride and groom, but it's also with the guest.
Exactly.
So the guests need to know what's going on in a clear voice. And every DJ has their own style, okay? And what works for them is great. I promise you I am not saying that my style is the best. It's just what works for me.
Right.
But I'm not a hype guy. I'm not going to get up there and talk in a voice that's not mine. I'm not going to. A microphone is not made to yell in. It's made to magnify your voice, so you don't have to yell. So if you'll notice when we do weddings together or receptions, that I will, when it's time for introductions, I will walk out to the center of the dance floor. I don't stand behind my equipment. I address the guest and make it short and sweet. Again, I'm not the star of the show, but I want them to understand what's about to take place. So that's very important. That's a very important question for the bride.
Well, you say you're not the star of the show, but you have your moments of being the star. Because generally, when you come out, everybody turns and looks.
But what I mean by that,
I would have to yell, attention.
Well, I'm going to give you a perfect example, and I'm letting some of my little secrets go, and that's okay. But for example, and when I come out and it's time for me, you've got everyone in the back lined up to be introduced. It's everybody's talking, their fellowship, having fellowship. When I come out, I'll come out 5 minutes prior to introductions, and I'll ask everyone if they will please go ahead and make their way to their seats. That our formal introductions will be coming up momentarily. Well, after that, I'll go back and check with you, make sure that everyone is lined up and that I'm familiar with what is going on. And then when I come back out, I always say this, and if you'll notice, and I'll forget I've told you this, but notice, because I always do this. My approach is when I first say something on that microphone, I say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening." I've got their attention. I just don't walk out there and say, "Okay, next up is
Right.
I learned a long time. I was blessed to do 10 years in radio, and my mentor taught me that you don't talk at your guest, you talk to them.
Right.
So there's a difference. So yes, MC work is very important. As far as reading the room, absolutely. I think that's the art and the craft of a DJ. But that brings up a point. And I've seen this a lot, and I could probably speak for every DJ on the planet, especially in Eastern North Carolina, because that's where I get my business from. But playlists are a big thing now.
Oh, yeah.
Brides will say, "Okay, can I send you a Spotify or Apple Music playlist, and can I send you a Do Not playlist?" So now let's talk really quick about the pros and the cons for that. And I'm talking to the bride. The pro.
I want you to address while you're in it. When do you start working with them on that music list? Like how early? So add that in with that when you're working.
Absolutely. So the pro to that list is we're going to be able to, as a DJ, incorporate some of the songs that you like that may be special to you and your husband, and that may be special to a family member. But the downside to that is it's taking away the craft of the DJ reading the room.
Right.
The Do Not playlist, advantages and disadvantages. Okay, you don't want any line dancing. I get it. I do. If I never had to play the wobble again, I'd be okay. But the problem with that is that, okay, you're going to have a lot of guests that probably won't dance unless it is a line dance. So I tell them that, and then I also explain to them if that's on your Do Not playlist and someone comes up and says, "Can you play the Cupid Shuffle?" And I say, "Well, it's not on the list that I was provided from the bride and groom," then more than likely that guest at some point in time is going to go say something to the bride. Well, he won't play my song, and that puts them in an awkward position.
Right.
We don't want that. We want them to enjoy that evening and not have to address that question. That's my job. So I just let them know the pros and cons and let them make that decision.
I think part of that is about couples understanding that what is played at a wedding is very different to what's played at a nightclub, though.
Right.
And I mean, so we've had examples where our couples have said, "Well, we really like this kind of genre, and that's what we want at our wedding," completely forgetting that they've got their 5-year-old flower girl and their 95-year-old grandma there. And I just think that part of the playlist and Do Not playlist is that they need to allow you the opportunity to read the room and understand that maybe between, 10 and 11 o'clock at night, grandma's left, 5-year-olds left, and you could probably amp it up a little bit then. But certainly when the dance floor's first opened, to get people to come up and dance, you've got to have what I would consider to be
get the party started.
Wedding music.
Right.
Not
Perfect.
boring music, but music
Wedding
that
music.
is going to just...
It's almost like a universal music.
Yeah,
It's something
exactly.
everyone is
That
gonna
everybody's
recognize.
go, oh, I remember that. I mean,
Right.
in England, I mean, we all are crazy about Sweet Caroline. I don't know if
Right,
it's the
sure,
same here, and we all
sure.
do the anthem. And you know, if you don't have that at a wedding, there's a problem.
Right.
So I think that explaining to couples that what they love at the nightclub
Right.
and what they love to play at home is really, really different to what's in a wedding.
Sure, and again, communication. What we
Right,
talked about
right.
earlier, prior to. And speaking of prior to, your question was, when do we start talking about music? First conversation, not in detail, but
Right.
I let them know that if they would like to start working on a list, then they're more than welcome to do that. But at that point in time, and this is again for me, I'm not speaking for other DJs, but at that point in time, that's when I explain to them, I don't play explicit music.
Right.
Now, I can amp it up, and I will, because 99% of what I'm getting, I can get clean. But that's just something for me. That may not, and I've even had a bride tell me before, well, that's what we want.
Right.
I actually referred her to someone else and made sure she was taken care of.
But I think then
But
the
it was
couples
just not
need
for
to
me.
understand that their
Communication.
dance floor might be empty if
Yes.
they only play their music.
I'm going to give you a perfect example. I had a bride who wanted me to open the dance floor with Metallica. And I just knew that wasn't going to work. I did, but I had to switch it pretty quick. So, and I told her that up front. So communication is very important. So yes, we start on that because music is a big part of it. We kind of build that up through the phone calls until we get to our final consultation.
So do you do most of your inquiry and consultations on the phone, or do you do in-person meetings or Zoom?
You
or...
know, I've actually changed over the last 2 years. Normally, the bride would go to my website. She would go to receive a quote. She'd fill that out, send it to me. I would quote them. We would go from there. Now, when they go to my website, they fill out a quote request, and I check my date, and then I respond to them requesting a phone call. And why do I do that? Because I want to make sure our personalities fit.
Right.
Because I want to be what she wants. And if I'm not that person, I need to be up front as a DJ and say, I'm not going to be able to provide that service for you, but let me get you somebody who will. So I like to talk to them first because I want to make sure they're taken care of. I'm old school, and so most of my business comes from referrals and repeat business. So that's kind of my advertising tool. So I want to make sure that all my brides, whether I take care of them or not, according to what they want, are taken care of, because I have DJs that are also on your vendor list. I have DJs that you work with that I refer a lot.
Well, like the rest of us, there are only 52 weekends in a year, so sometimes
right.
you're going to be booked
Sure,
anyway.
no, and there's a network of DJs in Eastern North Carolina, and there's different sets. And I think that's good. I've always said there's enough work for everyone.
Well,
so,
I'm also a firm believer that not everybody's a perfect fit for everybody.
You're
and I
exactly
think
right.
that's why we need
And
the
there's nothing wrong
variety.
with that.
Right. I encourage
There
it
is
because
nothing wrong with that.
I think our personality, somebody that's really shy or maybe a little timid, I might come across a little strong.
Right.
And so
I don't believe that.
I started to say,
might talk too much. If you don't like to be touched, I'll definitely encroach in your space. So it's I believe they're the good fit for everyone, and that's when I'm talking with them and finding out like what they want in food or what they want in a DJ or what they want in a venue, is to help kind of guide them on what they're looking for.
Sure.
But so I agree. It's good to have relationships with other vendors in our own business that we can refer other people to.
Sure.
But we're going to do some quick rapid fire
You
questions.
said that 10 minutes ago.
I know,
and
but I'm
going to
do it
slowest
this time
rapid
because
fire
I find all three of us, we all talk
We chat
well.
a lot, we do.
So some things that couples might need to know is, number one, does every
I'm ready.
DJ need Wi-Fi?
No.
Okay.
And to answer that with one, I don't necessarily need. I never use Wi-Fi.
Okay.
The only time I would need internet is if I was requested or someone requested a song that I didn't have, and I had to look it up and find it, and we could use our hotspot. So
Okay.
That's a good question, though, because some DJs need it.
Exactly.
And the bride needs to ask that question. Okay,
Yes.
I'm ready.
The other one is, what about electrical outlets?
Very important question. I can't speak for every DJ, but most of the equipment that DJs use can be run off of one regular, I think it's a 110 outlet. So
Okay.
I might lose my man card.
And do
there.
all venues have that for you?
Yes.
Okay.
But there is, and you made a good point earlier about doing a little research on your venue. You don't want to drop extension cords everywhere, and especially with ceremonies or anything outside, because you got to be mindful of your guests walking by them. You don't
Or
want
in
them
my
to trip.
venue, their horses tripping
Right.
And the
over them.
decor
Yeah.
aesthetics.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And the photography,
and to as a professional DJ, and DJs will learn this as they get, and I say that as encouraging as I can. You don't put duct tape on venues' floors. You don't do certain things because you respect that venue, and that's very important.
I've had that very serious conversation with a DJ that was
Right.
putting duct tape on a floor,
Yeah,
and I
you
was like,
can't do
no.
that. So you respect the venue. As a matter of fact, real quick, rapid tip to DJ: if in fact your client asks you to play over your contracted time, before you give them a yes or no, check with the venue.
Right.
Because you don't know if the venue's got a wedding the next day.
And check with the planner.
Right,
because
check with all
they
your
may not be
vendors,
able to
because
play later. Right.
exactly, because there may be a sound ordinance or curfew. Okay,
All right,
you got
another
another?
one?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have location requirements?
I'm assuming you're referring to when we set up. Is that
Yep,
like
where
okay?
you set up, inside or out?
In my contract personally, I have to have adequate shelter if I'm outside, simply because of rain. I can't play in the rain, so they have to provide adequate shelter. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Also, if it's a beautiful day, I don't have to be under a shelter.
Right.
But if we're 50% or 75%,
Well, the thing
chance
is,
of
in
rain,
Eastern North Carolina,
right,
you
don't
just don't know,
So,
do you?
so as far as that, absolutely. Second location for as reception inside, I don't have any requirements, but and I know us three have talked about this many times. It's more effective if I'm closer to the dance floor as a DJ for two reasons. Number one, I'm not playing over your guest, over top of them. And I can
like the
communicate. I can communicate better with the dance floor. Read the room better.
Right.
Be more involved. Be more active. So yes, on location it is important, but I think that's more of a professional planner. You know where to put the DJ. You know what I mean, because you are aware of those things.
I know at our venue we've had couples that have said, "Oh, we'll just put the DJ upstairs."
Right.
I mean, and that's really awful if you want to be involved in downstairs on the
right.
dance floor, because you'd
You're
get
up
work,
and down the stairs.
You'd get a workout in there.
I've
wouldn't
done
you?
that one
So-
time, and,
Yeah.
I
and
did
it went
one time
great,
and
but it
said
was
never.
very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's just too much. 'Cause just getting the equipment and the risk of damage and something happening and going up and I said no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Ready?
last rapid fire.
Last rapid fire.
Weather restrictions. If it's pouring down rain, what do you do?
Okay,
Like,
so
what
weather-
is?
wh-
And I
yeah.
know a planner is going to help with this, but
Sure.
do you tell your clients up front? Okay, if it's pouring down rain, I can't play outside.
No, no. And that goes back to the adequate shelter. If I've got shelter and it's raining, I do not mind playing outside. What I do find, and again, going back to the benefit of having a professional planner, a lot of times they'll say weddings at 5 o'clock. Well, we may not make that call until 4:30, 20 minutes till 5.
Right.
So the DJ needs to be on point, ready to roll once that decision is made. But communication is key as well. So maybe you ask the planner, can you talk to the bride? Give me an additional 5 minutes to make sure everything is, because you need to do sound check, you need to do mic check, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I'm trying to make this as rapid as I can. As far as weather, one thing that I and I think every DJ struggles with this. I think every vendor struggles with this. In my contract, it says the only way I'm not going to be there if it's an act of God,
Right.
weather related. I can't go do a wedding if we have a Category 4 hurricane.
Right.
I can't pull my trailer in that condition. We just went through a massive snowstorm for Eastern North Carolina. 15 inches it shuts us down. So that's tough. But you take that in every consideration with the bride, because trust me, if you have a professional vendor, they're going to do everything in their power.
And again, it's all down to
want to make it
communication,
happen.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
I have a very quick question.
Okay.
I know that we're chatting a lot. do you typically like to maneuver from outside to cocktail hour to inside? Do you do music on cocktail hour? Because we've seen a few
Sure, that's
recently
a
where it's
great
been,
question.
but it's been silent during cocktail
Yeah,
hour, and,
right.
and I'm kind of not sure whether that's good or bad.
No, that's a great question. So personally, for me, I think it's very important, if you're doing all three of those, to have a small system for your ceremony. And the reason I say small is because a lot of times you don't have a lot of room.
Right.
So small but effective, good quality sound, something small for cocktail, and then have your reception system set up. To answer your question on music for cocktail, I think it's very important, but I don't think that it needs to be played very loud.
Just
I
background
It's a
music.
background music because
Agree.
people are fellowshipping, they're talking, they're catching up, because most guests know one another, maybe haven't seen each other in a while, they want to talk. Have a cocktail, have some hors d'oeuvres. So something in the back, it's ambiance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for coming today.
I have
You
had
are a
such
delight.
a great time.
Will you come again?
Yes,
Yeah.
I cannot wait, and
Okay,
we'll talk and spill some more tea.
Yes,
That
I
sounds
love
good.
it. I love it.
And thank you so much for listening today and joining in. And don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe.